I Understand came about because I was surrounded by people who didn't understand. And I really struggled with that. And I didn't like hearing what I was hearing about suicide and mental health illnesses. That was almost 18 years ago when people were using words crazy and insane as descriptions for people with mental health illness. So I would toss and turn at night wondering why didn't they understand? Once I started sharing my story, my loss, my pain, I no longer felt alone. I suddenly had troops behind me that were, even though our lives were so different and our stories were so different, the feelings after a suicide loss, they're all the same. We have guilt, we have shame, we have confusion, we have devastation. That's what I'm trying to change. I really wanted to bring understanding to something that was so difficult to understand. Suicide was a dark and scary subject, and for me, I didn't like the things that I was hearing. I didn't like that my husband was being defined by how he died, rather than remembering and loving him for how he lived. Today, how I talk about it is to first talk about their loved one. I like to hear something about them. I like to see their face when they remember how the person lived, not how they died. There's this guilt that follows, what didn't I see? What didn't I do? The night before my husband had an attempt, we talked, and he told me he was suicidal, had suicidal thoughts, but he could never do that to me or the kids. And after he died, I really, really struggled with that and probably felt guilt. What didn't I see? What didn't I do? What could I have done? What could I have said? And it wasn't until a friend reached out to me and she said, we were talking, and she also suffered from depression and anxiety. And she said, I can help you with that. The moment changed. 3 words, the moment changed. And those 3 words brought such relief to me and an understanding. Because I knew in that moment that he told me he couldn't do that, he couldn't, and he wouldn't. But the pain endured, and the illness took over, and the illness won, and the moment changed. But if they only knew that life is so much better with them in it than without them, and it just is a very, very difficult path to have to walk, and it is my passion today to change that and let people see that illness is involved. This wasn't an act of selfishness. This was a 4th generation illness that could possibly be passed on to 5th generation, 6th, 7th, and 8th generation. The first video that I made, and somebody messaged me and said, not only have you saved my life, you've saved my family. The devastation of losing me, I knew at that moment I had something. I had something that I had to share, that I had to talk, and something that brought that compassion and understanding to something so difficult to understand. People were calling me this army of one because, you know, I was correcting people, you know, like, oh, how did your husband die? And I would say he died of depression, or how did he kill himself? And I'd be like, we're not talking like that. And I can't believe you just asked me that question. Really kind of shocking people to be like, you know, my husband had an illness, and he will not be defined, nor will me or my kids be defined by how he died. There's a sense of relief. You can see people, oh, I've never heard of it like that before. Why don't we talk about it like this? You know what I want them to do most is change the narrative, change your conversation, change your view on what suicide really is. That is the only way that we're going to make the change, and that's why we have the Definition Petition online, so you can read it, you can talk like that, take those stigmatized words out. I Understand has many programs. We have support groups for those that have lost. We have the Definition Petition, as I said. We have funded the first in the country nurse specializing in mental health at Helen DeVos Children's Hospital. We are funding a sensory room for children on the autistic spectrum who are at risk of harming themselves. We are supporting the Michigan Sheriff's Association with resources to all advocates in all 54 units go into the homes after a suicide loss, and providing resources to show compassion, comfort, and understanding so they don't have the wrong question asked. They don't ask how the person died. They are showing love and understanding. What I want people to understand is let's love each other for who we are. Let's support each other, whether it's an illness, whether it's the color of our skin, whether it's the house we live in. Those things don't matter. We all have issues, we all have struggles, and we need to get through them together with love and support, because as we know, love heals.